come safe home, will stand a tiptoe when this day is named, and rouse him at the name of Crispian. He that shall live this day and see old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbours and say, tomorrow is Saint Crispian. Then will he strip his sleeve and show his scars and say, these wounds I had on Crispian's day.
I'm the son of a Welsh miner, and one would expect me to be at my happiest playing peasants, people of the earth. But in actual fact, I am much happier playing princes and kings.
Richard Burton made his reputation as an actor on the English stage. But it was a love affair that transformed him into an international film star.
I think that as a result of my marriage to Elizabeth, I became a far more important actor than I was before, though it's not very easy for me to say that, as a result of that stupid and stupendous publicity.
Marrying Elizabeth Taylor brought Burton fame and notoriety in equal measure. He personally recorded every dazzling high and tortuous low in hundreds of pages of notes and diaries.
There were times where he loved being an actor, and there were times where he hated it. There were times he loved being a celebrity, and there were times he hated it. There was no in-between. There was extremes. Love or hate, drunk or sober. It was just everything, which is what made him a great actor and what was also his downfall.
And once I was just walking with Richard, and I said to Richard, what do you think of success? He said, success, he said to me, it's a door with one handle. Okay? You get in, there is no handle to get out.
You must at some time, Richard Burton, have faced the question of whether you should have continued as an imposing and even in the view of many people, great stage actor, or moved into the world of films. Do you ever regret having moved into the commercial cinema?
Oh, excuse me, Richard, that makes me so angry, because he has not left the stage. That's absolute bloody rubbish.
For Richard Burton, the price of his particular brand of fame would be a lifetime of questions and accusations. His marriage to Elizabeth Taylor turned him into a film star, but it also became a symbol of his failure to fulfill his promise as an actor. For most of the 1960s and the first half of the 70s, Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor were the most extravagant, most exciting, and most celebrated couple in the world.
Well, the Burtons were always associated as an item, Richard and Elizabeth. And they were more than that. They were a label for the kind of lifestyle that they set, which was one of conspicuous consumption. In Elizabeth's case, I think she realized that these things were amusing extravagances. In Richard's case, they meant something more. They meant that he would never be poor again.
After all, the fundamental basis of being an actor is to make money. I do it because I rather like being famous. I rather like being given the best seat in the plane, best seat in the restaurant.
Well, it just seems nuts. Like when Dad would he had a couple of fur coats or something, and I would just go, oh my God. Because I was his child. I was like, I'm so embarrassed. So I always found those things just totally ridiculous. I mean, the only thing I truly enjoyed, and I'm just being truthful, that boat was a hoot. I mean, we all had our own bedrooms. We were like, we loved it. I mean, we were like, this is great. We have our own boat. We got our own bedroom. Fantastic.
Richard Burton recently paid a visit to his home village in South Wales. In Pontrhydyfen, Richard is a hero. He returns frequently because he's a member of a large family. He says that his roots are still desperately important to him, and he works hard to maintain them.
He never forgot where he came from. And actually, when he was in pressure, he went back. But it's like regenerate your battery and then come back to reality. you know. It was, I mean, it must have been very difficult, let's face it, you know. You go back to your own village. I've been there with him, you know, and then you go back with Elizabeth Taylor, all that. The contrast is like, it's the inferno. There is no purgatory, inferno in heaven, you know.
He was born on November 10th, 1925, in this house in the village of Pontrhy de Ven in South Wales. The heights of fame which Burton went on to achieve would have been remarkable enough given his background. In the community he grew up in, the mines and the steelworks were the biggest consumers of local talent. But Richard Walter Jenkins, as he was born, suffered even greater hardship than most.
You've got to remember that 6 days after my birth, Richard was not quite 2 years yet. My mother died. So we were more or less farmed out to an elder brother, in my case, and to my elder sister, my sister Sis, in Richard's case. So it was a very sad beginning.
For a bright child with an urge to perform, the obvious outlet was the church, the traditional Welsh theatre, which is where the young Richard Jenkins made his debut, reading scriptures.
This is when I realized that he was something special. His memory was fantastic. Whereas we had to learn reading from the scripture. He wouldn't look at the Bible, he would just do the whole chapter, you know, without batting an eyelid. And I remember when he was reading about the Battle of Jericho, you know, and he used a pile of books, of hymn books, and the walls came tumbling down, very dramatic. And I'm talking about a 10-year-old boy, you know, 11-year-old. So there was something special about it.
He became the first from his family to go to the secondary school, the first step towards a different kind of future.
This is an absolute gem. So 1940, R.W. Jenkins, 73 Caradoc Street. I think this is probably the first diary that Richard kept. But it's very interesting. He's only 14 and he's pretty much an average schoolboy at the beginning of the diary. He's doing odd jobs. He collects newspapers, takes them to the fish and chip shop. But what I find very interesting is at the beginning of September 1940, he's only 14, he'll be coming up to 15 in November. I'm going to try hard in school this year. We're having continued air raids. Oil works still burning, and there is a black pall of smoke over the sky. So he's decided he's going to work hard at school, and shortly after that we get references to Philip Burton, this teacher, and Richard starts to concentrate hard. And he's talking about what wonderful lessons Philip gives. So Philip is capturing his imagination. And Richard is really determined to do it. I think this is the turning point for him.
As well as being an enthusiastic teacher, Philip Burton wrote, directed and acted in radio plays, staged local productions, and had contacts in Cardiff and London. Richard had found an avenue of escape, and Philip had an eager young protégé.
Philip Burton taught Richard how to project his voice, right? And how to act by just being silent. And Richard's accent and his control of his voice, it impressed me how quickly he developed.
By the time he was 17, however, the cost of keeping Richard at school was becoming more than the family could cope with. But Philip Burton had a radical solution, that he should become Richard's legal guardian, as well as his tutor.
Philip said, if I look after him, if I take him in and he has in the boarding house that I'm in, I'm sure I can find him a room there, would that be a solution? And Sis said, oh, Mr. Burton, it's the answer to my prayers.
I think the relationship with Philip Burton is absolutely central to the early years. We don't know whether it was in any sense sexual. I doubt it was. But there's no doubt that Philip formed a passion for this boy.